K9 German Shepherd puppy wouldn't wake up. What his mother did next will break your heart. She had already lost one of her pups, and now, this one wasn't waking up either. A tiny K9 German Shepherd puppy, born to serve and protect, lay motionless in the straw, while his mother nudged him with desperate whimpers. Most people would have looked away. But what she did next, captured on a hidden camera, left everyone speechless. This isn't just a story about dogs. It's a story about love that never gives up and the incredible lengths a mother will go to for her child. What started as heartbreak turned into something no one could have imagined. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and turn on notifications. It helps us bring you more real stories of courage, resilience, and the incredible bond between humans and K9 heroes. The barn was silent. Too silent for a place where life had just been born. Outside, the soft rumble of a distant storm rolled over the hills. But inside the modest wooden structure tucked behind a K9 training facility in upstate New York, the tension was much closer, much heavier. A German shepherd named Raya stood frozen over a litter of 5, her warm breath fogging in the early morning chill. For her puppies squirmed gently under her protective body, their tiny tails twitching, noses searching for milk. But one of them, her smallest, didn't move. Raya let out a soft, urgent whine, nudging the lifeless puppy with her snout. He was her last-born, the run of the litter, and from the moment he entered the world, he had struggled more than the others. Her instinct screamed that something was wrong. She nudged again, harder this time, and licked his tiny fur-covered body with frantic urgency. No response, not even a twitch. From the other side of the barn, Noah Carver, a former Army K9 handler turned civilian trainer, walked toward her with a hot thermos of coffee in one hand and a journal in the other. He had been supervising Raya's birth all night, pacing the barn with a flashlight and praying for no complications. The others were healthy, strong, vocal, but the 5th pup, the little one, had been a worry from the start. As Noah approached, Raya let out a short bark, not aggressive, but sharp. Her eyes were fixed on him, then on the puppy, then back to him again. She stood protectively over the unmoving pup, as if to say, "Help him." Now, Noah dropped the thermos, heart slamming against his ribs. He rushed to her side, kneeling in the straw, and reaching gently for the puppy. Raya let him, but she stayed close, eyes wide with maternal panic. Noah's fingers trembled as he picked up the puppy. No rise or fall of breath. No warmth. He rubbed the pup between his palms, trying to stimulate life, whispering, "Come on, little guy." Not today. Not like this. He had seen this before during his military deployments. Litters born too soon, in the cold or under duress, and the smaller ones rarely made it. But this wasn't Afghanistan. This was home. He wasn't ready to lose this one. Not after all Raya had been through to get here. Raya had served beside him overseas. She had sniffed out explosives, taken down enemies in dark alleys, and once dragged him bleeding back to safety after a roadside ambush. She wasn't just a dog. She was his partner, his family. And these puppies? They were a new chapter, a chance for something good to grow from all the chaos they'd survived. Noah held the puppy close to his chest, then laid it on a warm cloth by the heat lamp, rubbing him more aggressively now. "Come on, breathe. You're meant to be something. You're her son." Raya circled him, nose inches from the cloth, tail rigid. She let out a low, continuous hum that didn't quite sound like a growl or a whimper, but something in between, a sound of grief or defiance. Then movement, a tiny jerk of the paw. Noah held his breath. The puppy's chest fluttered once. Then again, he gasped, shallow, rattling air, but it was air. His mouth opened just enough to let out a squeaky whine. "Oh my God!" Noah exhaled, scooping him up and bringing him back to Raya. She didn't wait for permission. She curled around him instantly, tucking him into the warmth of her body, her tongue cleaning him in rapid, desperate strokes. She wouldn't let this one go. Not this time. Noah sat back, eyes stinging. "You did it, girl. You brought him back." He wrote in his journal later. She didn't panic like a dog. She grieved like a mother. She fought like a warrior. The storm outside grew closer, and rain began to fall gently on the barn's metal roof, creating a soothing rhythm that echoed the newborn pup's fragile breathing. Noah stayed by their side for hours, watching as Ryan nursed all 5 puppies. The smallest one, whom he began calling Echo, found a nipple and latched on, though weakly. Noah knew it was far from over. Survival wasn't guaranteed, but now they had a chance. Later that morning, Dr. Jen McKinney, the local vet who had helped deliver Raya's litter, arrived in her pickup, boots crunching over wet gravel as she entered the barn. "How'd the night go?" she asked, wiping the fog from her glasses. "For healthy, one almost gone," Noah replied, voice tired. Echo wasn't breathing. But Raya, she didn't give up. Dr. McKinney leaned in to examine the pup. "He's tiny, but he's got a fighter's heart. That's good. Sometimes that's all they need." Raya looked up at them briefly, then returned to grooming her litter. As the days passed, Echo's progress was slow but steady. He remained smaller than the others, always last to reach the milk and the first to fall asleep. But he had a spark in him, an unusual determination. He followed sounds more attentively. He pushed through the pile of siblings to find his mother's side when she moved, and he watched Noah. From the first week, the little pup seemed to recognize the man who had lifted him from the brink. Noah began spending extra time with Echo, holding him close to his chest as he walked around the barn. "You were meant to do something, kid," he'd whisper. "I don't know what yet, but you're not just a puppy. You're a promise." When the pups were 3 weeks old, Noah began early sensory training, exposing them to sounds, textures, and smells. Echo startled at first, but adapted faster than expected. While his body was still behind, his brain was catching up. Dr. McKinney was shocked. "I've never seen a runt develop this fast mentally," she said. "He might not be the biggest, but something tells me he'll be the smartest." But it wasn't all smooth. At 4 weeks, Echo stopped eating for a full day. His energy plummeted. He collapsed during playtime with his siblings, and his body went limp again, just like the day he was born. Noah rushed him to the vet, heart pounding, terrified that this time they wouldn't win. But Echo made it, barely. The diagnosis, a congenital heart murmur. Weak but not fatal. Manageable with the right diet, care, and rest. It meant one thing, though. Echo could never be a standard police or military canine. He couldn't handle combat training or long patrols. His heart wouldn't survive. Noah stared at the test results in silence, feeling like the universe had pulled the rug out from under them. "He's strong," Dr. McKinney said gently, "but he'll need a different kind of life, something less demanding. He might not be what you expected, but he might become something even more important." That night, as rain tapped the roof again, Noah sat in the barn, holding Echo in his lap, watching the pup rest against his chest. "You're not broken," he whispered. "You're rare." Echo stirred slightly, nestling closer. And Noah knew in that moment this story wasn't going to follow the path he thought. It would be harder, stranger, and maybe more beautiful. But he had no idea just how much Echo would teach him, and how much they'd be forced to fight for the life the little pup deserved. The following months turned the barn into more than just a place where puppies were born. It became a sanctuary. Each morning, the sun streamed through the slats in the weathered wood, casting golden beams across straw-strewn floors where 5 little German shepherds played, tumbled, barked, and gnawed at each other's ears. Among them, Echo was always slightly offbeat, slower, smaller, but somehow more focused. Noah noticed it immediately. While the other pups chased after falling leaves or wrestled for dominance, Echo would sit still, eyes fixed on a sound or movement Noah himself hadn't even registered yet. He was observant in a way that felt almost human, and while his body was slower to catch up, his heart, figuratively speaking, seemed enormous. Every gesture, every look from Echo carried a depth that made Noah stop what he was doing and pay attention. But still, the diagnosis hung in the air like a shadow. Severe exertion will be dangerous, Dr. McKinney had warned again. His heart just wasn't built for stress. He'll live, but only if you protect him from what he was born into. Because Echo had come from a bloodline of warriors. Raya, his mother, had served with distinction. Her pups were already being evaluated by various police departments around the country. 4 of them had names assigned and contracts pending. All except Echo. Noah hadn't listed him. He couldn't. He sat in the small office attached to the barn, pen in hand, reviewing applications from law enforcement agencies who wanted strong, aggressive, obedient dogs. Tools. Some even called them. Echo didn't fit. And something in Noah didn't want him to. "You're not a weapon," he murmured aloud, glancing to the window at the little dog lying peacefully on a bed of hay, his head resting gently on Raya's front leg. "You're something else entirely." A few days later, fate gave Echo his first chance to prove just that. Noah had opened the barn to visitors, an educational weekend program for local families to come and see how K9 dogs were raised and trained. It was a modest initiative, one he used to fund the care of his retired dogs and puppies. Kids from nearby schools came to pet the dogs, learn about their duties, and meet a real-life K9 veteran like Raya. Among the visitors that day was a boy named Connor. He was 8. He didn't speak much. His mother, Melanie, explained softly that he had been selectively mute since his father died in a car crash the year before. No school therapy or counselor had made a difference. He simply withdrew into himself, into silence. Connor wandered away from the crowd, while Noah was showing another group how scent tracking worked. When Noah turned to call him back, he noticed something strange. Connor was sitting next to Echo in the corner of the barn, not just sitting, leaning, quietly, calmly. Echo had a small paw placed gently across the boy's leg, and his head rested on Connor's lap. The boy's hands were buried in the little shepherd's fur. The entire barn fell into a hush as people noticed. Melanie gasped and dropped her phone. He doesn't, she stammered, covering her mouth. Noah stepped forward, but Melanie stopped him. "Don't move," she whispered, tears pooling in her eyes. Connor began to rock gently back and forth. Then he said something. Not a lot, just a whisper. "Soft dog," he said. Melanie broke. She knelt beside her son and put an arm around his back, sobbing into his shoulder. Connor didn't flinch. He stayed with Echo, stroking him slowly. From that moment, something changed, not just in Connor, but in everyone watching. Echo wasn't supposed to be a therapy dog. He wasn't supposed to be anything, really not with a heart murmur. But there he was, unlocking something in a child who hadn't spoken in over a year. Noah's chest tightened as he watched. Echo wasn't meant to fight crime. He was meant to fight silence. Later that week, Noah called Dr. McKinney and asked, could he be trained as a therapy dog? She paused before answering. With his heart, it's risky. But therapy dogs aren't put through aggressive drills. If you pace him, monitor his stress, and build his endurance gradually, maybe. Why? Noah glanced down at Echo sleeping beside him. Still as a shadow, curled in a ball of softness and purpose. Because he's already doing the job, he said. He just needs a badge to match. Training Echo wasn't easy. He couldn't run for long stretches. His legs would shake after 15 minutes of walking if the weather was too humid or too cold. But what he lacked in stamina, he made up for with an emotional sensitivity Noah had never seen in any dog. Echo would pick up on sadness like scent. At a veterans meeting Noah attended every month at the local rec center, he brought Echo in his arms. Not to show off. Just because Echo hated being left alone in the barn. That night, something unexpected happened. A retired Marine named Don, known for being gruff and closed off, sat in a corner, his hands trembling. No one would get through to him, not therapists, not fellow vets. Echo climbed off Noah's lap, trotted over slowly, and rested his tiny body right on Don's boots. And the old Marine cried. Noah watched in stunned silence as Don placed his hand gently on Echo's back. He knew, Don said. He knew I was breaking inside. Word started to spread. Noah got calls from local schools, hospitals, even the sheriff's department. Not for Echo to work, but to visit, to simply be there. I think this dog's a healer, one teacher told him. Not a fighter, not a chaser, but a mender. But not everyone was thrilled. At AK-9 Trainer Convention in Albany, Noah gave a short presentation on alternative training for special needs pups. He talked about Echo's journey, his heart murmur, his unique path, and his ability to connect with emotionally struggling individuals. Half the room applauded. The other half scoffed. "You're wasting a bloodline," one trainer said. "You should have culled him at birth." Noah stood frozen for a moment. Then, calmly, he walked off the stage and picked up Echo from his crate. "He was born not breathing," Noah said to the crowd. "But he taught a grieving boy to speak, a broken veteran to cry, and a stubborn man like me to stop seeing failure, where there's just a different kind of success." The room went quiet. Echo lifted his head and looked at the crowd. No bark, no movement, just a calm gaze that cut through the noise better than any speech could. After the event, one of the youngest trainers approached Noah in the parking lot. "I want to help train dogs like him," she said. "Not every warrior looks the same." That night, back at the barn, Noah opened the journal he had been keeping since Echo was born. He wrote, "He was never meant to serve the way we imagined, but maybe the world doesn't need more warriors right now. Maybe it needs more healers." And Echo's heart might be weak, but it knows exactly what it's here for. As Echo drifted to sleep beside his siblings, now almost ready to leave for their official placements, Noah stroked his head. "You're not going anywhere," he whispered. "You're home." But as peaceful as that moment was, Noah couldn't shake the feeling that something, or someone, would soon come asking for the very thing he swore to protect. Because Echo's story was just beginning. It was the middle of April, and the trees surrounding the barn had just begun to show their first green tips. The wind still carried a bite, but the earth was thawing. Echo, now 6 months old, was different from the rest of the litter, who had already been placed with police departments in other states. He had stayed behind, not because he wasn't wanted, but because he was needed. Everywhere Echo went, healing followed. In the months since his heart murmur diagnosis, Noah had slowly introduced Echo to trauma-sensitive work, visiting nursing homes, local schools, and even a veterans therapy center. Echo didn't respond to commands with robotic obedience. He responded to emotion. If someone in the room was hurting, that's where he went, without fail. Then came the phone call that would redefine Echo's path. It was Melanie, Connor's mother. Her voice trembled. "He's not okay," she said. Noah froze. "What happened?" Melanie took a breath. "He went to stay with his step-grandfather. The therapist thought it would help him connect to his father's memory. But when he came back, he had bruises on his arms. Small, but there. He won't speak. He hasn't looked at me. He keeps hiding under the bed." Noah's stomach turned. "Why are you calling me?" he asked, already knowing the answer. "Because he keeps whispering one word," she said. "Echo. He wants Echo." 15 minutes later, Noah and Echo were in the truck, speeding toward town. Noah didn't need a leash. Echo sat quietly in the passenger seat, ears alert. As they entered the residential area, Echo began to pace inside the cabin, whining softly, sensing distress. When they reached the house, Melanie stood outside with swollen eyes. She didn't speak, just opened the door and pointed down the hall. Echo trotted in, nose low to the ground. He paused at the boy's bedroom door, which was cracked open just enough to see a pair of small feet under the bed. No lights on, no sounds except shallow breathing. Echo crawled inside. At first, nothing happened. Connor stayed still, rigid. Then, Echo pressed his warm body against the boy's side and exhaled a soft, slow breath. And Connor moved. He reached out hesitant and placed one hand on Echo's back. Then his fingers curled into the dog's fur and held tight. His entire frame began to shake, not from fear, but from a wave of emotion too heavy to carry alone. Melanie watched from the doorway, hand over her mouth. Silent tears fell down her cheeks. A full hour passed. Still, Echo didn't leave his side. Neither did Connor. That night, Connor came out of his room for dinner. He didn't talk, but he ate. And when Melanie tucked him in, Echo was curled against his back like a living shield. Noah stayed the night in the guest room. By morning, Connor was sitting at the kitchen table when Noah came downstairs. He wasn't talking yet, but he made eye contact and then did something unexpected. He patted the chair beside him. For Echo, later that morning, Connor whispered 2 words as he pet Echo's ear. "Stay, please." Noah's heart cracked wide open, but it was only the beginning. In the following weeks, Echo became a fixture in Connor's world. Melanie began inviting other children from her trauma support group for playdates. Echo greeted each of them with quiet presence, never barking, never jumping, just being. One little girl named Ava, who hadn't spoken in nearly 8 months, wrapped her arms around Echo's neck and whispered, "You're not loud. I like that." Soon, local therapists and counselors were asking about Echo. Could they bring him to sessions? Could he visit their facilities? Was he certified? And there was the problem. Echo wasn't certified. His health condition had disqualified him from traditional service training programs. That meant no badge, no vest, no legal protection. Noah reached out to the county board for guidance. The response was sterile and cold. Due to the congenital heart defect noted in prior records, the subject does not meet criteria for working K-9 designation under current state regulations. Translation: he's not eligible. But Noah wasn't ready to accept that. So he began gathering testimonials from Connor's therapist, from Melanie, from families whose children had experienced emotional breakthroughs with Echo present. He compiled footage, letters, and behavior assessments. He submitted everything to the board under a petition for exception and waited. One rainy morning, as Noah reviewed Echo's training notes, his phone buzzed with an email notification. It was from the county board. They had denied the petition. Noah stood, staring at the screen. "You've got to be kidding me," he muttered. Their reason? Risk of liability due to cardiac concerns. That night, Echo sensed something was off. He lay his head on Noah's knee and wouldn't budge. Noah sighed, stroking the soft fur. "They don't see it," he whispered. "But I do." Echo blinked slowly. "You're not just a dog with a bad heart," Noah continued. "You've got the biggest one I've ever known." Later that week, something happened that changed everything. During a visit to a local trauma recovery center, a retired Marine named Don collapsed in a hallway after a severe panic attack. Staff tried to calm him, but he was incoherent, fists clenched, thrashing against the wall. Echo broke free from Noah's grip and ran straight to him. He didn't bark. He didn't approach fast. He walked, slowly, deliberately, and laid down right beside Don's body. Don froze. He looked at the dog, then began to breathe slower, his fists unclenched. He reached out, touched Echo's side, and whispered, "I'm still here." Someone caught it on video. The footage went viral. Within 2 days, the county board reversed its decision. Echo was now officially recognized as a certified trauma support K-9, with a custom designation for non-combative, heart-sensitive service animals. Noah picked up Echo's vest from the mailroom, hands shaking as he pulled it out of the box. It was soft blue with a silver emblem. Echo, trauma response companion. He knelt down, held it out. Echo didn't move. "May I?" Noah asked. Echo leaned forward and placed his head into the opening of the vest. As Noah adjusted the straps, his voice broke. "You did this, just by being who you are." Echo blinked at him and licked his hand once, slow and steady. They had won, not through strength, but through something stronger, compassion. The certification changed everything. With the official vest now snug on his body, Echo was no longer just a miracle in Noah's eyes. He was a recognized force for healing. Invitations poured in from hospitals, crisis centers, rehabilitation homes, and even elementary schools. Everyone wanted to meet the dog that understood pain without words. But with recognition came pressure. Echo's schedule quickly filled with visits, sometimes 3, even 4 in a single week. Noah tried to pace him. He declined bookings when Echo looked tired or when his breathing grew shallow after walks. But Echo never said no. He never hid. Whenever Noah stood near the vest, Echo rose to his feet, ready. It was as if the little dog who had almost died at birth now refused to waste a single day. And yet, Noah worried. He noticed it in subtle ways. Echo hesitated slightly before climbing into the truck. He took longer to recover after sessions. His naps grew longer. His appetite, once steady, started to fluctuate. Noah brought him in for a checkup, and Dr. McKinney confirmed what he feared. "It's the work," she said. "His heart is holding, but it's under stress. Emotionally, too. Echo feels everything." Noah nodded slowly. Then we cut back. But cutting back proved harder than expected, because one day a call came from out of state, from Virginia. A family had seen the viral video of Echo helping the Marine. Their son, Tyler, was a 12-year-old burn survivor who hadn't spoken or left his room in nearly 9 months after a house fire took his father and left him severely disfigured. The mother begged Noah. "He doesn't let anyone touch him," she said through tears. "Not even me." But when I showed him the video, he reached out and touched the screen. Noah looked at Echo, who stood at the door, head tilted. "You want to go, don't you?" Noah whispered. Echo blinked. So they went. The drive was long, nearly 6 hours. Noah kept the windows cracked so Echo could breathe fresh air. They arrived late in the afternoon. The house was quiet, tucked into a wooded neighborhood near Richmond. Tyler's mother, Dana, met them at the door. "He won't come out of his room," she said, "but I'll leave the door open." Noah nodded. Echo followed her down the hall. At the bedroom threshold, Echo stopped. Tyler sat on the floor, his back to the door, hoodie pulled over his head, hands in his lap. The side of his face that was visible was covered in scar tissue. His legs were wrapped in light bandages. He didn't move, didn't speak. Echo sat down in the hallway and waited. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Noah watched from behind. Then, slowly, Tyler turned his head. He looked straight at Echo. And Echo, with gentle movement, crawled forward and placed his head on the boy's ankle. Tyler flinched, but didn't pull away. Dana gasped silently. Tyler reached down and touched Echo's ear. The contact lasted only 2 seconds, but it was everything. That night, Noah slept on the couch. Echo refused to leave Tyler's side. In the morning, Dana came out holding her phone, tears in her eyes. "He asked for breakfast," she whispered. Noah exhaled. Later that afternoon, Tyler came out to the living room and sat next to Echo on the floor. When Dana brought a blanket over, Tyler whispered, "Make sure you cover him too." Noah placed a hand over his mouth to keep from crying. That evening, as they prepared to drive home, Tyler hugged Echo gently and whispered into his ear, "Thank you for not being afraid of how I look." On the way back to New York, Echo slept the entire ride. But Noah noticed something troubling. Echo's chest rose and fell faster than normal. He let out occasional soft whines in his sleep. By the time they arrived at the barn, Echo could barely climb out of the truck. Noah carried him inside, heart in his throat. Dr. McKinney met them within the hour. After a full cardiac scan, her expression turned grim. "There's some fluid buildup," she said. "His heart's working overtime. It's manageable, but only if we stop. No more travel. No more sessions. He needs rest long term." Noah sat in silence, holding Echo's paw. "Will he make it?" "I think he will," she said, "but only if you protect him from his own instinct to keep giving." Echo looked up at Noah, his eyes dull but still locked onto his. "You've given enough," Noah whispered. "Now it's my turn to fight for you." But Echo's rest would not come easy. 2 days later, tragedy struck the barn. An electrical short sparked a fire in the far wing, where Noah kept most of the training equipment and part of the supply storage. The flames were contained quickly, but not before smoke flooded the side stall where Echo was resting. By the time Noah and the volunteer fire crew reached him, Echo was unconscious. Noah screamed. He rushed in despite the smoke, coughing and blinking through the haze. He found Echo curled under a beam, covered in soot, limp. "No, no, no, come on, stay with me," he cried. They pulled him out and laid him on the ground outside the barn. Echo wasn't breathing. Dr. McKinney, who had arrived with the fire crew, began compressions. She worked with urgent, trembling hands. "Come on, Echo. Not now. Not like this." Noah knelt beside her, eyes wild. Then finally, Echo gasped. It was shallow, but it was breath. Noah collapsed beside him, clutching the dog's face. "You're still here," he whispered. That night, Echo was placed under oxygen support. Noah refused to leave his side. Raya, Echo's mother, paced outside the barn whimpering. Somehow, she knew, when the fire crew returned the next day to survey the damage, one of them found something remarkable: Echo's vest, singed around the edges but intact. Lying beside it was a child's drawing, Tyler's, left behind from his visit 2 weeks before. It was a crayon sketch of a boy and a dog, hand in paw, with a speech bubble that read, "You help me breathe." Noah framed it and hung it in the barn above Echo's resting area. Recovery was long. Echo didn't move for 2 full days. Then, little by little, he began to lift his head. His eyes regained focus. He drank water, ate soft food. Noah read to him every night. Stories from his own military journal, letters from children Echo had helped, messages from therapists, from veterans. One letter in particular caught Echo's attention. It was from Tyler. It read, "I know you might be tired now. That's okay. You helped me when I couldn't move. Now it's my turn to help you. I believe in you, Echo. Even if you can't visit again, I'll tell everyone about you. You saved me. You made me feel seen. And I will never forget you." Echo placed his paw over the letter and closed his eyes. It was as if he understood. Weeks passed, and one day, as the sun rose over the barn again, Echo stood on all 4 legs and walked the door. He was still slower, still fragile, but he was alive. And for the first time in a long time, Noah allowed himself to believe. Echo's story wasn't ending. It was evolving. He would no longer visit facilities or travel long distances. But now people came to him. Children, veterans, grieving parents. They came to the barn, sat with Echo, and simply existed with him. He became a symbol, a guardian, a quiet, breathing reminder that even the smallest hearts could carry the weight of healing. Noah watched it all unfold and whispered to himself. He wasn't born to run. He was born to stay until the hurting stops. The mornings had become ritual. Noah would brew a pot of strong coffee and bring a slice of warm toast to the barn. He'd open the big sliding door to let in the sunlight and find Echo lying exactly where he left him the night before, on the old wool blanket beneath the window, eyes half closed, ears flicking at birdsong. They didn't need a routine anymore. Echo no longer visited centers, didn't travel, didn't meet new patients. But the people still came. Quietly, respectfully. Survivors, families, veterans, children. They didn't ask Echo for anything. They simply sat in his presence and breathed easier. Echo wasn't a therapist. He was a therapy. Then one cold Thursday, everything changed. It started with a black SUV pulling into the gravel driveway. Too polished, too formal. Noah stepped onto the porch with a sinking feeling already blooming in his chest. 3 individuals exited the vehicle. 2 men in charcoal suits and a woman holding a leather folder against her chest like a badge of authority. Their shoes crunched as they approached, and none of them smiled. "Mr. Carver?" the woman asked. "I am," Noah replied. "We're here on behalf of the State Public Safety Board. We received complaints concerning the animal under your care, Echo." Noah's stomach dropped. "Complaints? About what?" She opened the folder. "Your dog's participation in unsanctioned therapeutic work, despite his heart condition and revoked status at the time, places your operation in legal jeopardy. His certification is under review again." Noah stared at her, disbelieving. "He's not working. Not anymore. He hasn't left this barn in months. You can check the logs." "We intend to," she said flatly. One of the men, taller, younger, shifted his weight awkwardly. "This won't take long." Echo, sensing the tension, wandered to the doorway. He didn't bark or approach, just watched, calm and still. "That's him?" the younger man asked, his voice softer now. "That's Echo," Noah replied. "The dog who's helped more people than any of your reports can count." But procedure followed. They reviewed Echo's medical files, confirmed his reduced mobility, scanned vet notes and footage. They interviewed Noah, walked the barn, asked about liability waivers and visitor records. And when it was over, the woman handed Noah a document. "Effective immediately," she said. "Echo's certification is suspended pending final review. That means no visitors, no interaction with the public, no media." Noah's breath caught. You're shutting him down. It's precautionary. Against what? He demanded. Against a dog who sits with wounded people and helps them feel whole? I don't make the rules, she replied. She turned to leave, but the younger man hesitated. He glanced at Echo, then at Noah, then stepped closer. My sister, he murmured. She has panic attacks. I showed her the video of Echo and the boy. She cried. First time she let anyone touch her hand. Noah swallowed hard. She says he makes her feel like the world isn't so loud. The man added, I thought you should know. And with that, they were gone. That night, Noah sat in the barn long after sunset. Echo lay quietly beside him, head resting on his paw. I don't understand it, Noah whispered. You've only ever helped. Echo didn't move. His eyes were heavy, his breathing slow. Noah looked down at the suspension order and clenched it in his fist. The following days were painfully quiet. Visitors stopped coming. Therapists canceled appointments. Parents stopped calling. And Echo noticed. He grew distant, slept longer, ate less. His tail barely wagged. Noah tried to keep him stimulated. Walks in the field, gentle grooming sessions, even reading aloud the way he used to. But the spark in Echo's eyes dulled. He missed the people. He missed his purpose. Then, one rainy morning, a letter arrived. No return address. No logo. Just a single envelope with a child's handwriting. Inside was a folded drawing, a crayon image of a boy and a dog, hand and paw touching. On the back, a message. Dear Echo, my name is Liam. I'm 16. I was in a foster home for years. I never trusted anyone. One day you came to a shelter event and sat next to me. You didn't bark. You didn't move. Just let me cry into your fur. That was the first time I believed I could belong somewhere. Please don't let them take you away. We need you. Noah stared at the letter for a long time. Then he made a decision. He called Elise Grant, the local journalist who had covered Echo's story months earlier. You need to come back, he told her. She didn't ask questions. The next day, Elise arrived with a small camera crew, and to Noah's surprise, so did dozens of others. Parents, veterans, children Echo had once comforted. Tyler's mother drove up from Virginia. He still sleeps with a photo of Echo under his pillow, she said. Connor's therapist appeared with a folder of progress reports. Echo opened a door no one else could. Even the old Marine from the support center showed up. I hadn't had a panic attack since Echo laid across my boots. He gave me back my breath. Elise filmed it all. Noah spoke to the camera through tears. They say he's not qualified, he said. But this isn't about badges. It's about what's real. Echo saved people not with his strength, but with his presence. And no rule can measure that. The segment aired that night. It went viral. Again, the hashtag Let Echo Stay began trending across the state. Messages poured in from across the country. Stories, videos, testimonials. Echo wasn't just a therapy dog. He was a movement. Living proof that healing didn't always come in the form of trained responses or checklists. Sometimes it came quietly, on four legs, with no expectations at all. 3 days later, the same SUV returned. But this time, the woman's tone was different. She stepped from the car and approached Noah with a new certificate in hand. The board has decided, she said. Echo's status is reinstated. Permanently. No further review. No restrictions. Noah blinked, stunned. You're serious? She handed him the document. Echo, Trauma Response Companion, lifetime designation. A small gold seal gleamed in the corner. This story changed a lot of minds, she said quietly. Then she looked at Echo. He's not like the others. But maybe that's what makes him essential. She left without another word. Noah knelt and placed a new vest gently on Echo's back. This one was white, clean, embroidered across the chest. Here to stay. Echo stood slowly, tail wagging just once. And the barn, for the first time in weeks, felt full again. Echo aged slowly, like a song that never wanted to end. The years passed gently at the barn. The visits never stopped, but they changed. People came not to be fixed, but to remember what it felt like to be safe. They'd sit beside Echo, even as his steps grew slower, his coat grayer, and his naps longer. And still he listened. He always listened. Children with trauma would curl up beside him. Veterans would whisper old memories they couldn't share with anyone else. Mothers who had lost children would just cry. And Echo would stay, head on their lap, until they had no more tears left. He never rushed anyone. He never turned away. Noah often said Echo didn't need words because he was one. A word for hope, for stillness, for healing. When Echo turned 10, the barn hosted a quiet celebration. No streamers, no noise, just a gathering of the people whose lives he had changed. Some who had driven across states just to lay a hand on his fur one more time. Tyler, now a confident college student with facial scars he wore proudly, stood up and gave a short speech. "He didn't save me from the fire," he said. "He saved me for what came after, from the silence, from the shame." And then Connor, once the mute little boy, now taller than Noah, stepped forward. "I found my voice because he never needed one to understand me." Echo watched it all from his blanket beneath the window, tail thumping gently, his eyes tired but aware, like he understood this wasn't a goodbye. This was a thank you. Not long after, Echo stopped getting up in the mornings. Noah noticed first, the way his head lifted slower, the way he no longer met him at the door. One morning, Echo didn't move at all, just lay there, his breathing soft, steady, peaceful. Dr. McKinney came and examined him gently. "He's not in pain," she whispered. "He's just fading." Noah sat with him all day, then all night, reading from the old journal, the one that started the day Echo was born silent in the straw. "I thought you wouldn't make it," Noah said through tears. "Turns out you were never supposed to be loud. You were supposed to be quiet strength. You were born to stay, and you stayed for all of us." Echo blinked slowly. His paw moved slightly toward Noah's hand. And that night, without a sound, Echo took his final breath, cradled in the arms of the man who had pulled him back to life so many years ago. The barn was silent, but the world was not. News spread fast. Thousands shared stories. Posts flooded in from all over the world. Therapists, soldiers, teachers, parents, kids. Each one had a memory, a moment, a message. And then something beautiful happened. People began sharing the phrase, "Be the Echo." It was printed on posters in recovery centers, on therapy room doors, on bracelets, shirts, books. Be the Echo. It meant be present. Be soft when the world is hard. Be the quiet that lets others breathe. Noah didn't try to replace him. There was no replacing Echo. But 1 year later, a small German shepherd pup, born with a crooked front paw and deemed unfit by a breeder, was left anonymously at the barn gate. Noah picked her up gently. She was scared, shaking, too small. He smiled. "I know someone who would have loved you." He named her Whisper, and just like Echo, she didn't bark. She simply stayed. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share with someone who needs to believe in quiet miracles again. Because sometimes healing doesn't arrive loud or perfect. It just shows up, stays beside you, and listens. Paw prints,